Hi everyone. Hey Sohan.
Hey, Sakshi. Hey, guys. Okay, so this is the correct one. Makes sense.
Yes, we were apparently on the wrong link. I'm so sorry. Uh,
Awesome. So, keep everyone waiting as well.
yeah, I think they're still coming in. So meanwhile, they're doing this. I'll request all of the participants to drop in where they are tuning from. One job search frustration that made you register tonight. So we'll be reading this as we go. How that sound?
That sounds awesome. I'll let me open the chat.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, I'm joining from Chicago. Let's see where everyone is joining from. Sakshi, what part of India are you joining from right now?
I am currently in Nagpur and super excited to do this.
Beautiful place. Okay. The chat is disabled for me, Sakshi. I
Let me just check it. It should be visible now.
Awesome, there it is. I see a bunch of familiar faces that I keep seeing on LinkedIn. So very happy to see all of you guys. Awesome. Let's see where the others are joining from. Anyone from Chicago on the East Coast or the West Coast? Let's see.
Sohan, I am from Atlanta.
Hey, nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you. Let me open my, just a second, let me open my camera. So, sorry.
Yes, please. That would be amazing. And if other, more than happy to. How do I pronounce your name correctly, man? I don't want to mess it up.
It's Orgo.
Okay, that's awesome, man. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
Are you a
But
student
chat
right
is
now?
disabled for me, Sohan
Oh,
and Sakshi. Yeah.
okay, we'll quickly fix that up for you.
I think a lot of messages are coming to me directly.
Do I need to select someone or to get the chat or like?
Are you able to do that? I think it is disabled for everybody. So I'll be
Oh,
taking.
okay, okay. I need to select your host, then only. Yeah, okay, okay. Now I can able to post. Okay, okay. Understood.
So people are still coming in. We want to give like 2 minutes and then probably start. Are you guys okay with that?
I'm cool.
Awesome.
Actually, it might be so early for you, right? It's like 6:40 or not even 7 in India, right?
Yes, yes.
Ansh is joining from Dallas. Hi, Ansh. Nice to meet you.
Yes, nice to meet you.
Hey, hi guys. Good evening, good morning. I think the chat is still disabled.
Okay. So I'll start on your behalf. Uma writes, "Hello, I have a quick question. I am actively looking for a job and don't need a sponsorship. Is this session still applicable for me?"
200% yes, absolutely. Anyone who is looking for a job, I know how frustrating it is for the lack of a better word. But yeah, whether you're looking for a sponsorship or not, more than happy to have you on board.
But just one
Sarath,
thought, Sakshi and so on. I think people who don't look for a sponsorship, they're, I mean, they don't need to join this kind of a forum to get a job, right? I mean, they are almost like a citizen to get a job, right? If they don't need a sponsorship. I'm just not hurting to anyone, but just saying the facts in the US job market. Yeah.
I would say definitely hurts to like require sponsorship and everything, but the job market is terrible at the same time as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sarath is joining from Indianapolis. Hi, Sarath. Nice to meet you. Then Lashman Khatri says, I am joining from Cleveland, Ohio. I am an architectural designer. Amazing. I am originally from Pakistan. Welcome to the call, Lashman. If I am pronouncing your name correct, apologies if this is going in a different direction. Amazing. Ansh is joining from Dallas. Argya is from Atlanta. Estira is joining from Texas, Austin, Texas. Vaishali writes, job market is difficult for citizens as well. Correct. Mirza Bilal from Dallas. Hi, Mirza. Hi, all. This is from Sumant. I'm joining from New Jersey. Graduated last month, looking for jobs actively. Amazing. We have amazing response here.
Yeah, and quite a diverse audience. Very happy to see that.
Ven from California, looking forward to this call. Hi, Ven. Welcome to the call. So amazing. I think let's begin. A very warm welcome to all of you and thank you for being here tonight. For those who don't know me, I am Sakshi. Coming from India, community manager at Open Atlas and Open Hire, my job is to make sure this community has conversations, the people, and the resources that actually move careers forward. And tonight's conversation is one I've been genuinely looking forward to because it's about something almost everyone has lived. And being the community manager for more than 6 months now, I have heard stories where people are applying, waiting, hearing nothing back. So I genuinely wanted to do this. So let me introduce the person you may all know already, but I wanted to welcome the guest formally. So it's my pleasure to welcome Sohan Sethi to the Open Hire Open Atlas community tonight. Sohan understands hiring from inside the system, the screens, and the decisions that happens long before the candidate ever hears back. That's exactly the perspective this room needs. Sohan, thank you so much for giving us your evening. If you want, we can have 2, 3 lines of your introduction. We would love to have.
Absolutely, Sakshi. Let me just firstly begin by saying thank you so much for doing this. I know when I was a student and I was applying for jobs, I was dying to be on webinars like this. Okay, I believe my network just flew over there, but please bear with me. So I was actually when I was applying for jobs, I was dying to be on platforms like this. So what you're doing over here is very meaningful. So firstly, thank you so much for doing that. And thank you to Open Hired for organizing this. And an even bigger thank you for everyone who's joining at probably 7 or 9 p.m. in your time right now, skipping Netflix and coming over here, just being a part of this community as well. But having said that, I would say I am currently working as a hiring manager for a company called Healthcare Service Corporation. It's basically the Blue Cross and Blue Shield health insurance guys. And I've hired 5 people over the last 1 year. And I know how the back end of the hiring works, what your workday actually looks like on the other end. And so I definitely would love to share some of those insider tips and tricks that can help you pass the ATS. Apart from that, I've been creating content after my Monday to Friday. My weekends are spent on being on calls and speaking with wonderful people like you, and just giving back to the community who has given me so much. So, on that note, ready for your questions and let's begin. Let's see how we can help as many people as possible today.
Thank you so much, Sohan, once again. A very warm welcome from all of our side. I want to just quickly run through a quick note on how tonight will run so we all get the most out of it. For the first 30 minutes, I'll be putting the questions to Sohan, the ones we promised and shared with you ahead of time. We'll move through ATS and resume screening, reading job posts for sponsorship signals, strategic targeting, and what the new H1B changes mean for where you should be applying. After that, the floor is yours. We'll take audience questions one by one on a first come, first served basis. So drop them in the chat box as they come to you, and we'll work through them in order. We'll do our best to get to every single one. And if we run out of time before we reach yours, please do not worry. Open Hired will make sure that your question is heard and answered after this session. Nothing will get lost. So ask freely and ask honestly. Nothing is off limits tonight. So, Sohan, let's start big picture before we get tactical. Most people in this room have sent dozens, sometimes hundreds of application into what feels like a black hole. From your side of the table, what's actually happening to those applications that candidates never get to see?
Absolutely. That's I believe the best way to begin. And even before answering the question, which I'm sure is on all of our minds, which is like, hey, how do I get callbacks and how do I make sure that I get a job? It is very important to understand why the job market is so tough right now and why all of this, like you have to send. I know people, Sakshi, who has sent 10,000 plus applications, which is ridiculous, like and still not getting opportunities because the job market is so saturated right now. So to begin with, the real problem, I'll just speak from a practical thing which happened in my life from an example. So this is, let's say, probably last August that I was hiring for 5 people in my team. And again, this is not even one, this is 5 people. So but we just put out one single application on Workday and just made it public. Within 36 hours, this was a proper, normal, very basic analytics data analyst job. And if anyone is from an analyst background, it just required like one or 2 years of experience. All of us could actually apply for that. And apparently, everyone did apply for it because we received for just one job application 1,200 plus applications, which is a ridiculous amount. And we just had to close our application window in 36 hours because we were
Mhm.
overly saturated with the number of applications that came in. So, and this is not like for Meta, Microsoft. I would assume the number is at least 2 or 3x for those companies. So
Mhm.
it is ridiculous amount of people who are applying to a specific opportunity because there's such a big lag over there. And on that note, let me just give a very I will definitely answer this in the follow-up questions, but out of the 1200, we only looked at probably 40 to 50 applications. And out of the 40 or 50, 28 were internal, like basically IJP, internal candidates who were applying for that. So, in a sense, out of the 1200 people, 97 or 98% applied externally. And we only looked at less than 1%, 0.5% of applications who came without a referral or who are internal candidates. So, on that note, definitely sounds very daunting, but there are multiple
Mhm.
ways to navigate that. So, if that answers the question, Sakshi, sorry to begin on a grim note, but having said that, there are multiple ways that we can bypass this entire situation over here.
No, I'm sure. I think, Sohan, all of the points that you said are we anticipate that kind of response these days because, as you said, even in LinkedIn, when I see people are applying, there are around 4,000 applications that has already sent out. So it is no surprise for us when we see that, the amount of application, especially the big fours and the companies who are not a startup, are must be going through. So it is again a very difficult call for a hiring perspective to make sure that each and every resume is being answered and the candidate has been spoken to. So yeah, we do get that. So on that, I wanted to kill some of the myths first. So there's a ton of advice out there about beating the ATS. What do these systems actually screen for, and what's the stuff people obsess over that doesn't matter at all?
A great question. I would say the ATS definitely is looking for specific keywords that are there in the job description and that are there in your resume, essentially. But let's look at it from a hiring manager perspective. I believe there are ample number of tools out there that are like basically tailoring your resume for the ATS. Even your ChatGPT and Claude are actually doing a damn good job of tailoring your resume for each application. So to answer that, definitely the keywords are the main thing that the ATS is looking for. The more keywords that are there in the resume with the job application is basically what will get you over that borderline over there. But having said that, from a hiring manager's perspective, what I essentially looked for every person that we gave a call back to, let's assume that we have the Mona Lisa, the most famous painting in the world. And one hand, I have the Mona Lisa. Let's assume this is the entire job description. On the other hand, I want to be looking at an exact replicate of the Mona Lisa such that I won't be able to distinguish between which one is real or which one is not. So to go on that analogy, I would say your resume should be such a good overlap with the job description that the hiring manager will feel stupid in a sense that, hey, this is such a great candidate. He is matching the same industry. They are matching the same kind of experience, the same kind of skills. They have impact shown on their resume. So it would be a stupid decision to not be giving them a call back and not be reaching out to them. But in reality, I saw so less number of applications actually doing that. And the ones who did, we definitely made sure that we are reaching out to them and they essentially perform very good in the interviews as well. So I believe matching your resume with the job description is key. And there are multiple ways that can be done as well.
Wow, so much to get an insight. I mean, I do have a follow-up question on this. What are the resume choices that, quietly sink a candidate and the ones they would never know hurt them? So,
Hey, let's actually go with the thing that has been tried and tested by me at least. I'm sure multiple people have different opinions on this, but in essence, just keeping it as simple as the formatting because because the ATS system at times, if it is too much customization, like there are
mhm,
pictures and there are other things involved, or it's just even if it is written word, there are multiple
mhm,
graphics that you have, colors and all of those things that you have tried to embellish the resume with, that actually acts negatively in your favor. So just keeping it very simple, very basic formatting, as long as it is readable it looks impactful, and it is relevant to the kind of job that you're applying for, the resume will do a good job. A good hand rule is definitely, if you have less than 5 years of experience, stick to a one-pager resume. If you have more than 5 years of experience, it is
Mhm.
recommended to go for a multi-page resume. Two or three should be doing fine as well.
Amazing. Is the most resumes never seen by a human? I mean, this is the question that is also coming from my end. Claim real, or is that just a fear mongering that we see?
I would say most of the resumes not seen by a human. That's actually true. And the reason for that is because most of the resumes, okay, when someone is hiring for a role, it first
Mhm.
goes to the recruiter and then it comes to the hiring manager. In this case, in this entire scenario, it was me. So my recruiter, when until and unless he was doing a good job, I was like, okay, keep on sending the applications. When I felt like, okay, he's not really giving me relevant candidates, is when I actually logged into Workday and started seeing them. But having said that, Workday is structured in such a way that it favors the applications that are internal candidates or either they have a referral. So most
Mhm.
of the people, like let's assume even humans have limitations. So the max that they can see are probably 70, 80, or even 100 resumes that they are going through for hiring just one
Mhm.
candidate. I believe that's definitely a good number. So the 100 or at least the top 50 would be the ones who are either internal candidates or referrals. So that is how you should be applying for, because referrals definitely get seen. It is not quick. I can say from my own experience that referrals do get in front of the hiring manager and the recruiter for sure.
Amazing. So Uma is asking a question from San Francisco. Welcome, Uma. Is there a specific website you recommend for building ATS resume? Since everyone will be using AI to generate ATS friendly resume, how do we stand out? That's a very good question.
Absolutely, Umar. Right on point. I would say not trying to promote any of the websites, but if you can just type ATS tailoring tools on Google, you will get a list of the top 5 or 7 that are really good. Something which all of us are aware of is JobRite. They are there in the market for a long time. Teal is very good with resumes. There is a company called ViceDoc. They are very good with their pricing and very cheaper, and their resume analysis is very good as well. Apart from this, there is Migrate Mate, there is Resi. But even if you don't want to go and pay for these tools, I know people who are only using their Claude and ChatGPT, and that is doing a very good job as well. So multiple things that you can experiment with.
I hope that answers your questions.
Awesome.
So we have a question from Lasya. From a recruiter, workday hiring manager perspective, if you see an applicant with a sponsorship requirement, are they in the bottom of the pile? Hi Lasya,
Oh, no.
welcome to the call.
Yeah, Lasha, that's a very intriguing question as well. Thank you for that. I would say not at all. It really depends upon the kind of role and the company that you're applying for. Most of the top companies, let's say Fortune 500 organization, there is a very good chance that if it is a technical role and even non-technical roles nowadays, they are offering sponsorship. A very good way last year to actually find roles that are sponsoring is a website called H1B Grader. You can just go over there. It is a free website and a free resource. You can just go over there. You can see all the companies that have been sponsoring over the last 5, 10, so many years. And I would recommend, depending upon the kind of industry that you are in, just create a list of, let's say, the top 50 companies that you want to be working in. That is exactly what I did as well. And the second step would be then going to their career pages, not LinkedIn, not Indeed, by directly going to the career pages of these companies and applying for roles over there. There is a big possibility that if they have sponsored in the past, they would definitely be sponsoring now as well. So if you want to go that route, that's the free version. If you want to go for a paid tool, Migrate Mate is a company. They have only sponsored jobs. So if you don't want to go for a specific industry and you want to apply randomly across multiple industries, that is a paid tool, but you can definitely try to go through that, and they only will give you sponsored job listings.
Additionally, adding to what Sohan said, Open Hired also helps students, and we especially handhold students, professionals from all fields to get the job in whichever domain they are coming from. And we'll be sharing more details with you all soon. But yes, adding to what Sohan said, we do have options and they actually work. We have success stories where people are coming and saying thank you. So that means a great lot of deal for everybody who is trying to get people placed. So thank you, Sohan, for answering that question. So quickly moving on to the segment where writing for the machine without sounding like one. Okay, so we know what they screen for. The hardest part, how do you know, excuse me, write for the algorithm without turning your resume into keyword soup that a human recruiter probably rolls their eyes at. So what's your take, Sohan?
Absolutely. A very good question once again, Sakshi. I would say I just formatted my own resume to something called the XYZ method. Like Google has a template. They basically promote this a lot. So you can just type the XYZ method on Google and like a bunch of resources will come up. But what that basically means is, let's assume there was a time when I was creating dashboards on Power BI. So let's assume without using this method, I just wrote on my resume bullet point was I created 14 dashboards in Power BI
Mhm.
for my company. That's basically one way of writing that. The optimized version of that would be X, Y, and Z. I did X to solve Y, and
Mhm.
Z was the outcome of that. So the Z is the impact. So I created 14 Power BI dashboards for the sales team enhancement that lead to 25% increase in the sales over the next 2 quarters. So that is how we can optimize for the machine. And it doesn't sound, but at the very same time, it has a very structured flow for showing impact across the table as well. So I'm sure that if you give your resume, if you give that entire transcript of what the X, Y, and Z method looks like, it can transform all of your resume bullet points into this
Mhm.
specific format, and that would be highly optimized and showing a lot of impact in your resume.
Thanks, Sohan. Follow-up question. Where do people overdo it on keywords? What's one change someone could make on their resume tonight that would meaningfully move the needle?
Wow, awesome. I would say a lot of people try to only tailor the skill section a lot. So, for example, if a job description has like 10 technical skills that are not in their resume right now, I've seen a lot, only those 10 technical skills are directly copied and pasted in the skill section and edited that. But it doesn't really translate in the experience section or even the education section for that matter. So, this formatting across the resume really gives a lot of depth to the application. And apart from it, I would highly recommend one resume change would be I believe leadership qualities and proactivity shows a lot of impact on our resume. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, I've seen very few people highlight them. So that is point number one. So just make sure that you have some quantifiable, but at the very same time, qualitative experience that shows that, okay, this person has a very broad range of experiences, not tied to a job. But at the very same time, one thing, if I really want to do in today's market, is I
Mhm.
would request everyone of on the call just
Mhm.
create a portfolio. It could be a very simple, basic portfolio, but to stand out right now, it is highly required that you have portfolio projects on your resume. Just create a link right there and attach it on the resume. But have at least 4 to 6 very strong portfolio projects that are very highly related to your profile, and that will help you stand out as compared to the other candidates. And not a lot of people are doing that. So that is something that I highly recommend nowadays.
That's a great advice, Sohan. Thank you so much for that. We have a question from one of our audience, Lashman. Has there also been a trend of international candidates or those with visa related work authorization requirements being passed over because they may require sponsorship in the future? Great
I would
question,
say,
Lash.
yeah, absolutely. I would say that definitely ties to the earlier discussion where it really depends upon the company that, like, so basically, let's understand why the company is apprehensive to sponsoring because they have a specific budget tied to each hire. And at many times, I've seen that a company may not have a substantial budget to be sponsoring for the job. And definitely in the current political scenario, that is something that can be looked not negatively, but it falls under a gray area for sure. So having said that, if the company has a good budget, they will definitely be looking to roll over the candidates in front of the hiring manager. And as far as the hiring manager goes, it doesn't really make a difference if the candidate requires sponsorship or not, but it is just the HR and the budget side of things that actually causes a roadblock in that. But I also know a few candidates who offer that I will be sponsoring for my own H1B, and it may not work for corporates, but it has definitely worked in startups that I've seen a few times as well. So it is just a budget constraint. It definitely is not tied to the hiring manager needs or not.
Thank you so much. I hope that answers your question. Amazing. We have another question coming from Mirza Bilal. Does project section needs to be there and what should be the structure?
Great question. Again, it really depends upon how the resume is formatted. The rule of thumb that I go with is I always start with a summary at the very top of my resume, then followed by the skills section. Because from a hiring manager's perspective, let's say if I'm hiring an analyst, I really want to see what are the skills that they have that they possess that are relevant to the job description. The next one is the experience section. And to answer that question, then is the project section that comes in. And lastly, I just close it off with the leadership or extracurricular activities section. But the project section can, let's say, depending upon how much space that you have left in a resume after the billion things that we have to add, I would say add three projects if that is something that can be shown and accommodating the space constraint as well. But if not, if you already have multiple experiences and there is no space, highly recommend creating at the very top of the resume just one word called portfolio. Link your portfolio website to that specific thing, and on that would definitely help cater the projects. You can just add your projects directly to the portfolio website, and that can help you overcome that.
Amazing. I hope that answers your question, Mirza. Okay, yes. Thank you. Thank you, Mirza. We have another question coming from Siddhi. As a hiring manager, what is your take on cold emails? Are they welcome or you find them unprofessional? That's a valid question.
Siddhi, thank you so much for that. I was waiting for to tap into this specific segment. Okay, to to give you an answer to that, 5 years ago, you did not really have to do. Let's say it's actually 6 years ago. It is pre-COVID, and the job market is great. Everything is booming. It's just a happy world out there. We really did not need to stand out apart from our resumes and everything. I was actually speaking to a senior leader at Meta recently, and he gave me this insight that Sohan, right now you are seeing these many number of applications. When he used to hire for analysts back in 2018, 2019, they only used to get like 120 applications at a company like Meta. And now he's saying that the number has gone beyond 3,000 for each role. So that literally 20, 50x that number of applications is something that we need to figure out. And to answer Siddhi's question, Siddhi, I highly appreciate the extra effort of a cold email. Let's say you find a role that you are very interested in, and it is a very great fit for your profile as well. So I would definitely say look up the hiring manager or the recruiter or even both to make it even better on LinkedIn. Send them a cold message, and obviously just pitch yourself. And there is a high possibility that they may not be replying to the cold message on LinkedIn. So it is a very good practice to add an extra layer and send the cold email as well. Any cold email I get, I don't shy away from it. I actually see that okay, the person is taking a lot of initiative and that needs to be rewarded. I immediately flag the application for consideration for an interview. So I'm sure many other people would be having the same mindset, and highly recommend using cold email. If you need some resources, just go to apollo.io. That is one for cold emailing. There is a website called Visa, which is WIZA. You can go through there, and Rocket Reach is another one. All of these are plugins. So basically, if you once you sign in and everything, they have free credits. So try to use as many free credits as possible. And once you go to LinkedIn and on the hiring manager's profile, it will automatically give you the option to get the email ID from there. So that is how you can actually retrieve the email IDs for the hiring managers. I hope that answers your question, Siddhi.
Yes. Thank you, Siddhi. Last question in this segment. Do you is coming from Umado. Do you
Mhm.
recommend to create two portfolios if you are targeting two different job titles? Interesting one.
200%. I would just add on to that let's say if you are either targeting not even two, let's consider four job titles. Definitely have different resume for all of those four job titles. Alternatively, I've also seen people just create one resume for multiple job titles, but they have different resumes for different industries. So you can either take the route where if you're applying for a data analyst, business analyst, data scientist, data engineer, have four different resumes. Or if you are applying to the financial sector, the healthcare sector, the retail sector, tech sector, have different resumes tailored to those industries as well. Or if you want to go even the extra mile, do a combination of both. But yeah, that definitely helps a lot. Uma, you have a follow-up question. Please go for it.
Yeah, I have a follow-up question on that. So LinkedIn would be like something that the hiring manager would actively like looking at. So in terms
Right.
of like two different portfolio, like how do we display two different stuff, right? So do you recommend us to just make one portfolio and two different section for the work? Because I think I have like a lot of community experience side and also job, which is very different, and I'm trying to transition to product. So in that case, it's kind of like tricky. Like, do I maintain two different portfolio and then list that on LinkedIn versus one portfolio and have different section for the works that I've done in the past? What
Great
do you
question.
recommend?
So that's a very fair scenario. I definitely appreciate that. I would say you already answered the question so brilliantly that create multiple sections within the same portfolio. I wouldn't recommend negating a few projects. If you've already done that, you should actually broaden the depth of your profile to show that okay, you have multiple skills. But yeah, probably coming to LinkedIn, I would say try to keep it slightly generic. I'm sure there would be times when you may not be falling into one bucket or the other, but try to keep it generic. I've done the same with my LinkedIn as well. My resume looks very different. My portfolio website looks very different, but my LinkedIn experience is slightly generic so that I can actually tailor to multiple industries and job profiles. But to answer the other thing, definitely have separate sections on your portfolio projects or like on the portfolio website and just broaden the depth of your profile as much as you can. And I believe that should do the job. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for asking the wonderful question and
Thank
thank you.
you.
Okay, so we have one follow-up question on Uma's question. How should we accommodate that on LinkedIn if we want to apply for a different job roles?
I'm so sorry. My neck almost broke down. Can you please repeat that question?
No worries, no worries. I'll just repeat it. The question is coming from Divya. It's a follow-up question on Uma's query. How should we accommodate that on LinkedIn if we want to apply for different job roles?
A very good example for that would be just go through my LinkedIn, and so I've just made sure that the company is there, that the entire experience is there as well. But for that matter, the bullet points are very, very generic. That hey, I was just part of this project or this initiative. This is the skill that I was using at that point of time, but not as tailored on what it is on my resume. But that is something that I have done that has worked for me. But I see that you have a follow-up question. Please go for it.
I think we have S. I don't see your name though, but they have their hand raised.
Thank you.
So
Thank
yeah,
you
right.
so much, Sohan and Open Atlas, for such an insightful session. I have two questions, and these questions are specifically for individuals who are targeting executive or senior roles with sort of 15 years of experience. And this is based on personal experience, so maybe would be relevant to some people and would not be relevant to some people. So my first question is that if you have extremely senior or executive roles like CXO roles on your resume for past 10 to 12 years, but you don't have recognized brand names or logos, let's suppose Fang Mang companies or other big enterprises, rather you are working with startups, and you have a very impactful resume and LinkedIn, and you get inbound leads. But then people usually don't call you back, or the process doesn't end up in an offer because of lack of those brand names recently or recognized logos. Have you ever seen that type of scenario, and what would be your thoughts on that? That's my first question. And my second question is related to the fact that sometimes, especially for senior and executive roles, you go through the interview process, and mostly, like specifically in my case, I get a lot of inbound leads, which tells me that my LinkedIn is working pretty well. But at the same time, you go through the entire process, and currently I'm based out of the US, but I do not need any visa sponsorship in the US, like H1B now or never. Like I don't need it because of my nationality. So the challenge which I face and how can I work around it on my resume, that I have put on my resume very clearly, willing to relocate. That's all I can put. Of course, I cannot put all the details in a two-page resume about my visa and status, but when I fill the applications, I say that I don't need any visa sponsorship now or in the future. And then if there is a space or anything, I tell them about my specific nationality and everything. But still, in with corporates in the like US, because I've studied and worked there earlier. So I will not name the companies, but big financial institutions and some fangman companies, they mark your application quickly in the system, not in the process, the moment you mention your location outside the US. So how would you mitigate something like that? Because I don't need any visa sponsorship. I put openly on my resume, willing to relocate, and wherever feasible, I also mention my nationality, which right away tells that I do not need visa sponsorship like H1B now in the future. So I would love to hear your thoughts on that. You may or may not have experiences. I know very specific questions, but I would still love to hear your thoughts.
Absolutely. I would say, firstly, thank you for those two brilliant questions. I'm sorry I missed your name in the initial beginning. Can you please repeat that for me?
Oh, sorry. So you will not get my name, but I follow you very often. So we are connected on LinkedIn.
Okay, awesome. Got it. So I'll just call you S for now. So S, thank you so much for that amazing questions. Let me tackle the first one. So the first one is basically okay. Depending upon your experience, let me actually tell you a true story. So when I was hiring for the roles last year, I had people from Fang and Mang companies. I had candidates from the big four, the top three consulting companies, McKinsey, and all of those as well. But the honest truth was that we did not hire any one of them for the roles that we wanted to fill. And the only reason was that because they were not relevant profiles to what we were looking for. It initially looked very tempting for me to have someone from Microsoft with 4 years or 5 years of experience in the specific job role that they were doing. But eventually, it did not really make sense to hire someone who doesn't have the relevant experience, even if they have the titles to just come to the interview. So I would say I highly disagree that the Fang or Mang titles in most cases, unless and until it is not a relevant profile, will be making a difference. But in terms of your specific experience, I believe you have brilliant profile and an experience working at even CXO levels, if I got that correctly. So just probably tailor your profile in such a way, because if you have those kind of experiences, you would definitely be having multiple times or multiple stints where you develop specific skills that would be catering to that specific job role. So I would say relevant experience tailored in such a way that it makes sense for the hiring manager to call you to an interview, which I'm sure you have ample amount of that. So probably tailoring your profile and making it more relevant towards the job description will make a big difference, because that is what I did. I did not go for the titles. I went for the relevant profiles, and it worked brilliantly in my case. I'm sure other people are doing the same as well. And so the second question, again, I don't have experience in that, but from the things that I have seen in the past, is you are so right. I wouldn't disagree where companies are rejecting candidates, or even ATS systems are rejecting candidates where it is outside the US and all of those things. So if you don't need sponsorship, if you don't need to go through that entire cycle, just mentioning the location as United States in the resume should be doing the job as well. And then you can go for the follow-up questions when they are actually asking, hey, where are you located and all of these things. Just tell them that, hey, this is the situation. I don't need any sponsorship. I can directly come to the United States. And that is what I've seen other people, it has worked for them. Where, for example, someone is in Chicago right now and they want to apply for a job in Chicago. The location, even in on a city level, matters a lot. So I can only imagine what it would look like on a country level. So just tailoring that location thing could work for you. But again, I don't have enough experience to answer that kind of a subjective question. But having said that, probably that works. Maybe give it a try for a month, and if it works, then great. But for the other question, I can for sure say that the relevancy is more important as compared to any Fang or Man titles for your job roles.
Thank you, Sohan. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, S. That's what we are calling you. So thank you so much for asking a wonderful question. Thanks, Sohan, once again. Last question from this segment It is coming from Lashman. Any input or advice on the cover letters?
Firstly, to begin with, highly required in this current market. Please don't skip cover letters. And I have a story for that. I had a friend who had applied to a specific company. And so this person was the one who applied with a cover letter. When they were eventually hired, the hiring manager told this person that we gave you a call back. Obviously, the interview was on your skill and everything, but we gave you a call back because you were the only person who attached the cover letter out of 550 applications, which is a staggering number to begin with. That 549 people did not attach a cover letter, but it just made them stand out. So definitely have the cover letter there on your application when you're submitting it. Again, a general rule of thumb is to like the format it in probably three paragraphs is what I did. One is just very, I would say, overall summary, the first paragraph. The second one is tailored towards the job description as to how your experience is relevant towards the job description. And the third paragraph is just your motivation for applying for that job. I believe that should do it. Probably you can add a fourth one where two paragraphs are tailored towards the job description. But that is the general rule of thumb that I go ahead with. I hope that answers the question on the cover letters. Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you, Sohan. Thank you, Lashman. Moving on to the very important segment of this evening, strategic sponsorship targeting. Let's get concrete on targeting. If someone has limited time and energy, where should they be actually aiming at right now? Which companies, which roles, what timings give them the best odds? I'll have like follow-up questions on them on this particular question, but floor is yours.
There are so many things that can be said on this topic. First, to begin with, looking at the timing issue, for I know people who have literally just 1 month left on their OPT or STEM OPT and they need a sponsorship job. So, and even let's say if God forbid someone who was on an H1B and they got laid off and they just have 60 days now. So the FANG and the MANG cycles, they usually run in excess of 3 months. Not always, but most of the cases for sure. So in that case, probably targeting a mid-sized company or even startups can be very beneficial to react to that timeline. So that is point number one. But if you have time, you have 6 months, definitely go for the larger corporations as well. In terms of getting a callback on an application, I have seen very good success with applying within the first 48 hours. I know people have many opinions on that, but that definitely works a lot. So apply within the first 48 hours when the job is posted. Have multiple alerts on LinkedIn or even on the career websites. When the job is open, you'll get a notification on that. Other things tailored towards I'm combining a lot of answers over here, Sakshi, but again, so much to be saying on this. The new H1B rule, I'm sure, alters a lot of things when it comes to job applications. I don't think we should be playing the system, but I believe we should definitely be playing with the system or in favor of the system as to how they are rewarding candidates. I will be sure that we'll be seeing a lot of trends when it comes to either remote jobs or jobs in tier two cities, not just New York and San Francisco, but the other demographics as well. So probably that is something that you can target. And tech roles usually have a higher salary in these job roles and demographics. Apart from that, again, just to close this entire answer off, what we spoke earlier on, having up only jobs that are sponsoring really increases your odds of getting a response. So how you can find them is H1B grader for the free list and migrate mate and definitely open hired helps with that as well. So multiple things, but make sure that you are targeting jobs that are sponsoring and not applying randomly.
Thank you, Sohan. I think that was a very open-ended and a broad question to answer. But are there any companies or types or sizes that are consistently better bets for international candidates right now? I mean, this is coming from many community members that have asked me those questions. So I would appreciate your answer on this.
I have in the sense that like an organization that is helping with this.
Yeah, maybe company types would also do, or maybe the sizes, let's say startups or mid-sized companies, or whatever you
Got it.
think that are consistently probably the better bets for our students to or professionals to apply for.
Got it. Makes sense. I would say definitely companies that have the budget firstly to allocate the sponsorship situation in the first place. And that would be your big corporations, your Mang, your Fang, and all of the, let's say, most of the Fortune 500 companies will be sponsoring. There are multiple mid-sized companies nowadays as well that I'm seeing rising trend who are sponsoring. But in terms of startups, I believe most of the startups are actually unaware of the entire sponsorship thing as well. But let's say if I am able to educate them or even convince them that, hey, I'll be taking care of the entire sponsorship cost, then they can definitely be open to that. But in my experience, I've seen startups really oblivious to the fact that, okay, a candidate even requires sponsorship as well. So the best bet to answer that question would definitely be the bigger corporations. They hire more often for sponsored roles.
That's really helpful, Sohan. Thank you so much. Let's move on to the bigger segment, the new H-1B fee structure. We can't do this AMA in 2026 without talking about the H-1B shake-off. For anyone who hasn't been following, there's now $100,000 supplemental fee on certain new caps subject petitions for people hired outside the US, plus a move forward wage weighted lottery selection and higher processing fees. Sohan, let's break this down. I mean, I request you to break this down for us. What actually changed and who does it hit the hardest? Especially the F1 students changing their status from inside the US. How does this land on them differently?
I would say, firstly, there is so much fear mongering out there. So please don't be. Firstly, news channels are the worst places, unfortunately, nowadays to get our information. But even secondly, even just online articles, and there is so much talk about this. So to make it very clear, if you are within the US, you do not have to pay the 100,000 fees. That's written over there. So it does not impact you if you're within the US and applying for an H1B. But if you are outside the US, for example, let's say someone is working at Amazon Bangalore and they are applying for the H1B, then their company to get them to the United States, if they are filing, they will have to pay the $100,000 application fee once they're selected. So there is a very clear distinction. So don't be worried about that. If fortunately you fall on the other side of the border, if you require sponsorship. Having said that, there are four different tiers where I don't have the percentages at the top of my mind right now, but you can easily get them by a simple Google search. But there are four different tiers. Starting at the most basic tier, the sponsorship odds something that was introduced this time. So earlier on, everyone had a very fair chance, which was, I believe, somewhere 26% was the odds, but now it starts somewhere from, I believe, 16% and goes all the way to 55 or 66%, something like, I'm definitely butchering the numbers over here, but so the percentage have changed depending upon your location and the kind of money that you're making in that specific demographic. So many people have seen taking remote roles and moving to tier two, tier three towns even, and they just get, if they are making a good number of like money, their salary just places them in the tier 3 or the tier 4, which has like 3x or 4x odds of getting placed as someone who's applying for a tier 1. So my recommendation, definitely check the entire percentages for the exact numbers. And unfortunately, it is fortunately for the people who are at senior roles, it definitely favors them. But for entry level roles and everyone who are working in tier 1 cities, they are definitely at a disadvantage when it comes to this odds based and tier based hiring structure.
Thank you, Sohan, for especially busting the myth around H-1B fees and sponsorship. And people are really fearful about how they would be landing their jobs, which would require an H-1B sponsorship again. For an entry level or a role like a lower wage applicant under the new wage weighted odds, what's the realistic play?
Honesty, if the answer contains honesty right now, I would say skip the tier 1 cities and look for roles that are more catered in the tier 2, tier 3 cities, or get a very high paying remote job from a tier 1 employer, and maybe moving to a tier 2 would be the best choice. But that is something that I believe could be like, this was just the first attempt at the lottery that we saw, and many people did this. But having said that, I'm sure the USCS will find a way to overcome this practice as well and make it fair as much as possible for everyone. So I believe the answer, unless and until the time that it is implemented, new changes could be coming in the entire system from next year onwards. And the answer may be outdated. But having said that, right now, I know there is a very rising trend of people moving to tier two, tier three towns and or getting a remote job for entry level applicants.
That's insightful. Thank you. Thank you, Sohan. I mean, I was even wondering about these questions myself. So amazing. Thank you. There are a question people are afraid to ask. So we'll just do this 5 minutes before we fully open the floor to the audience. These are the questions people are often scared to ask a hiring manager. So let's try and ask them here. Is it okay to ask about sponsorship in the first interview, or does it tank your chances?
I would highly recommend actually asking about the sponsorship in the first interview, whether it is with the hiring manager or the HR recruiter. But it does not make sense to nowadays. I am seeing that people are giving 7 rounds of interview, which is ridiculous. Like that is a lot for anyone to go, even the company or the candidate as well. But if you are spending 2 months interviewing and at the very end they are saying, "Hey, you did not disclose this upfront and now we have to move ahead with another candidate," it's a big waste of the other opportunities that you could be getting in the meanwhile. So if it is not mentioned on the job description, I would say at least ask to the recruiter. And yeah, that is how I would proceed with this. But I have a few thoughts on this. Maybe the follow-up questions I can answer them.
Hi, yes, you can go ahead and ask your question.
No, thank you, Sohan. I think that is a very insightful take. I just want to add on to that because I recently went through a real process of 3.5 months. I was very upfront. In these days and times, you cannot hide things, right? I have a portfolio and I have a very active LinkedIn profile. So there was mention that I am based outside the US, and the role didn't say anything like that. And I applied through cold application, but then I also reached out to the hiring manager on LinkedIn because I figured them out. And I was upfront right from the beginning that I do not need visa sponsorship because of my nationality and where I'm currently based. But I definitely need a couple of weeks to move to the US, which is a very regular and genuine concern because you cannot uproot your life in any country or city in less than 2 weeks. But just to let everyone know that I went through 7 rounds of interviews, out of which two were 2 full days of interviews where I had 4.5 hours interview, half an hour break, and then 4.5 hours of interview. So I put so much time investment into that. And then I made business plans, case studies, and whatnot because it was an extremely senior role, like more to a executive level role. And then after 7 interviews and 3.5 months, the hiring manager just refused to go ahead with my offer. They said that, no, we want you to be in office on the first day. And I said, you knew right from the beginning that I cannot be in office on the first day. That's not feasible practically because no matter, even if you hire someone inside the US and if they are based in a different city, it will need them at least a month to relocate. So I can, join the office from the third week or something like that. But you're absolutely right that 7 and 8 rounds of interviews are happening, especially for senior and executive roles. And sometimes it happens like this, and this is one of the largest US banks. So I just wanted to make it clear so everyone knows that this is happening.
Thank you so much for firstly speaking about that. Kudos to your courage. And I would say is that if the company is doing that from day one, I believe it's their loss that you are not a part of that organization, and much more beneficial for you that you could be surrounded with the right people who have the right mindset, who are more accommodating for such major life changes. So I feel firstly you are handling it incredibly courageously, and more power to you for making the right choice going forward as well.
Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate so.
Of course.
Thank you once again, S, on behalf of all the community members. I'm sure sharing the real time stories and experiences are more, it speaks to the person. So thank you so much once again for doing it. Towards the end of this session, I would request everyone to drop in their LinkedIn so that everybody could reach out. And we'll be sharing an email which has a lot of surprises for you, especially with regards to the webinars that we'll be doing in future. We are soon to do a launch of Open Hired community. So anyone and everyone who is around Bay Area are more than welcome to come and join us. We'll be sharing all the assets with you soon and this meeting too. Thank you so much. Moving on to a question that is sitting in my chat box. It is coming from Sumant Ramesh. Hi Sohan, I'm an experienced software engineer, 3.5 years of experience. I'm targeting full stack backend position or AI ML position. As I'm very near to NYC, which company should I focus on? Upcoming startups or big corp? I've been approached by a few well-established startups until now, but the HR is very slow with reply even after multiple reach outs. Another question was what I've heard that hiring is much better on the west side of California as compared to the east side of NYC. What's your opinion on this?
Firstly, Suman, thank you so much for that question. I'll be completely honest and transparent over here. My main expertise is obviously on the data side, but from my network and everything that I know about the software industry, you can definitely be moving to the West Coast because it is a gold mine of software engineers and anyone in tech for that matter. But having said that, the opportunities are limitless right now. Maybe you can find something in Miami, which would be a dream job to be by the beach and then working for a major corporation as well. But in terms of if you're understanding the more number of opportunities out there, definitely the West Coast is the place to go. But the right opportunity can be anywhere, Sumant, for that matter. It can be in New York, Chicago, Dallas, anywhere. But if you just want to increase your odds, California is the place to be.
No problem. Thank you so much for the answer, Sohan. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you, Sohan. One last question. It's about referral. So, does applying through referral really matters, or is this just overhyped? What's your take on that?
I would say I cannot emphasize the importance of referrals nowadays. And no matter who you hear, probably otherwise from, they may just have a very selective experience. But the broader range over the past 3 years, the trend that I've seen that referral definitely get you at least your foot in the door. So what I would highly recommend is obviously applying to referrals, have your connection, have actually a list of connections that are working in your target companies and do not wait for the role to actually show up and then you're finding someone who can help, who can refer you for that, but already have a list of, let's say, 40 or 50 people or even 20 people for that matter in 20 target companies. And whenever you see a role in that target company, just reach out to the person on WhatsApp or LinkedIn and say, please refer me for this specific opportunity. It is very relevant to my job role. So that is something that I would highly suggest. And again, in my own experience of hiring, we hired half of the people that we hired were internal candidates, or the other half, at least. So we hired 4 people who were either internal or through referrals, and just one external candidate. So I cannot emphasize the importance of referrals and how it actually gets your foot in the door in front of the hiring manager or a recruiter in that case.
That's amazing. I mean, it's very helpful. I'm sure it is helpful for our community as well. I think it's about time. We have around 10-15 minutes more. So, as I mentioned, we are now taking questions. Anyone and everyone who wants to ask Sohan one-on-one can are free to open their cameras and ask their questions with their hands up. Okay, we have one question in the chat box coming from Ansh. Okay, my question is I can create multiple versions of my resume depending on the role I'm applying for. For example, when applying to data analyst roles, my resume titles and bullet points can position me as a data analyst. But LinkedIn is not dynamic like a resume. I can only show one primary title headline on LinkedIn, such as data analyst or data engineer, and I cannot keep changing it for every job application. So my concern is if I tailored resume shows one story for a specific role, but my LinkedIn shows a broader or slightly different title, will that create a confusion or weaken my application? That is coming from Ansh Patel.
That's a very solid question, Ansh. Thank you so much for firstly asking that. I would say let's consider this. Even in my current company, the exact job title which is there is very vague, and it is something called like a unit manager, analytics and reporting, which is like five different words that don't make a lot of sense coming together, or at least not the best sense. So I would say I only convey myself as a manager of analytics. Very clear, very straightforward, very simple. I'm sure many other companies would be having other job titles. I know many financial companies have like AVP or like a VP for like a individual provider role, which is again not making a lot of sense. But having said that, just going to the earlier thing, keeping the LinkedIn as generic as possible. And I know that maybe the experience can be generic, the job title cannot be, but just try to make it as generic as possible to the largest extent that you can. And whatever is not in your control, you can just go back and explain it much better in the interview and on your resume as well. But keeping the LinkedIn generic, probably you can combine two or three roles into a single job title and then put that on LinkedIn, and your resume can definitely tell a much more tailored story when it comes to the job interview. But yeah, that would be my suggestion. I hope that helps.
Sure, sir.
Thank you so
Thank you for the answer.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we're about time. If anyone has any question, can raise their hand. Meanwhile, I have shared the feedback link in the chat box to unlock the freebies that we have for you, waiting for you. Please fill the form. Let us know your experience, and we would we would love to organize such Q and A's for you in future. So help us do that. Thank you. We have Ganesh Raj. Yes.
Hey, hello. Am I audible?
Hi Ganesh, yes, I can hear you perfectly. Please go on.
Hey, so I have 2.5 to 3 years of experience with data analytics, and I have so 1.5 year or slightly more of experience with AI engineering. So I've been applying for the past 3 or 4 months. So what I've faced, like what I've felt from my screening rounds is that I'm overqualified for the fresher and university grads roles, and I'm underqualified for senior AI engineer roles because for senior AI engineers it's like 6 years plus a PhD or 7 years plus a PhD. So I'm getting interviews only for the senior roles. And like I'm definitely prepping on the parallel. Like I'm getting close to the final round. I'm like getting very close to an offer. But I'm still confused as to like what level to target because I'm not getting any responses for fresher roles and for the senior roles which I'm getting, I mean like I match probably 30 or 40% of the job requirements and yeah, so it's sort of more ambitious than like my current profile.
Awesome, Ganesh. I definitely understand your question. Thank you so much for that. Multiple things that I want to say on this topic. So firstly, let's talk very concisely on your specific situation. I would say again, life. There are so many things that are outside our hand, and it really depends upon the luck and the right opportunity as well. I got into a manager role with just 3 years of experience. So again, in an ideal scenario, that wouldn't have happened. But I just tried my luck. The right opportunity was there. I had the experiences that could back for that role, and I got that opportunity. But having said that, I would say that's like again, in all honesty, like a rare scenario. But in your case, I would say if you are getting callbacks for a specific kind of a role, let's assume it is the senior role in this matter. Go for those kind of roles because like the data is there to back you off. And if you are not getting callbacks, like and not getting any callbacks for the junior role and some callbacks for the senior role, I would definitely say to go with the data and target those roles. And you never know, the right opportunity can be there when you are just present at the moment and you get an excellent role at one of the AI companies for the senior AI engineer role. But having said that, you can even in the meantime do a few things that can actually brief your like pump up your profile to be relevant in those interviews. That those are definitely some kind of certifications, some kind of not an internship, but like an apprenticeship, which will allow you to say that, okay, I don't have 6 years of experience, but I have very relevant experience that you are looking for through the 3 months of stint that I did for this specific company. Maybe that can really help you more tailored towards that. And in terms of actually standing out, let's say nothing is working, like you're not getting callbacks and maybe getting callbacks and not able to convert the interview. Something that I would do if I was looking for a job right now is consider the job search as a sales pitch. And what that means is create like a pitch deck. Just look online, you will get multiple resources. I'll try to post something on this as well. But create a pitch deck that says why you are the right candidate for this specific role and a company. Maybe just make it 3 or 4 slides. Some people even record an interview, something like that. But just the idea over here is to stand out in the application as much as you can. Attach that in addition to the resume. Even a better way, even like a step forward would be go on LinkedIn, message the hiring manager with your pitch deck, and even cold email them, just like someone else was doing previously. And that would definitely help you stand out. And just make a promise that I will be doing X, Y, and Z in the first 90 days if I'm given an opportunity to interview for this role. Let's assume that that extra amount of effort will actually get you an interview. After the interview, assuming that you are in the final round and final stages, something that you mentioned as well, create a follow-up pitch deck or even like a replic website. You understand AI very well, I'm sure. So create a very create a replic website which will take you probably like 10-15 minutes with an AI prompt as well. And the earlier pitch deck that you had, go and step beyond and mention the interview conversation that you had with the hiring manager as well. Like, okay, these are the challenges that they are trying to solve. These are the problems that they are facing. Okay, these are the skill sets that you currently have. Put all of that into the Replit website. Send another email to the hiring manager that, hey, this is how I can actually deliver value to the organization if I am hired. And this is my promise within the first 90 days. Now, what you have done is you have increased your odds exponentially, because I can promise you hardly, okay, firstly, there won't be anyone else doing this, acting as like considering the entire job application as a sales pitch. But even if there are 1 or 2 applications who are putting additional effort, you would be at the top tier, or at least the top 10% of that entire number of people who are putting that effort. So my recommendation to you and everyone on the call, consider your job search as a sales pitch, because unfortunately that is what we are doing. We are kind of selling ourselves to a recruiter or an hiring manager who is offering a job in return. It shouldn't be the case. I definitely disagree with that, but that is the reality of the market right now. But create your job search as a sales pitch, and I can promise you it will be bringing you much more results as compared to the normal cold applications that would be right now. I hope that helps and answers the question.
Yeah, okay. I'll try that out. I had another follow-up question. Uh, so like I am currently employed, but there is some restructuring going on, and and that's why I have to look for a job again. Like that's how it is right now, this market. So I mean, like I'm on, I would say, a soft deadline, not a hard deadline, but it's still like the clock is always behind you, right? So like as you said, I did certifications. I did AWS certifications to add to my profile, and so other than that, like I even did a few projects to add to my Git. And so other than that, like what do you think I can add? I mean, like I have to balance both my like work and also applications, right? So what do you think I could do more that could add value?
There is a website called forage.com. I used to go over there, and they offer projects, but not really projects, but actually kind of an business apprenticeship where you are solving real world problems, that like use cases. They could be a great ad. Like they have companies like JP Morgan, Microsoft, OpenAI, all of these guys. Maybe that could be something that you can check out. And more tailored towards the
Okay.
timeline question over there, definitely target startups. You wouldn't want to be stuck in a loop, just like S was mentioning, of 7 interviews at a major company when your timeline is so stringent. So definitely target startups or mid-sized company who just finished the hiring in 2 or 3 rounds of interview. And I believe your profile is excellent as well in terms of the hands-on experience that you have, the skills that you have. A startup would greatly benefit from that. So probably that is something that you can be more focused on as compared to the major corporations over there.
Okay, I'll look into that. Thank you. Yeah, that helps. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I think we are at time. Before we go, as I said, we have free gifts waiting for you. Our free newsletter, career moves, immigration shifts, and opportunity. Before everyone else, the link will be shared with you all over an email. So I highly request everybody to go ahead and fill the feedback form to unlock these free gifts. We have an Open Atlas Summit coming 2026 on 21st of August and 22nd in Milpitas, California. Join the waitlist tonight and use the code we will be sharing with you for an exclusive discount before tickets open to the main public. And the third one is our 4,000 plus member WhatsApp community where the conversation doesn't stop when this call ends. So we'll be sharing all the important links with you shortly, along with the resources and the transcript of this session. Thank you so much. So we have one question though. It's coming from Vishali. What the company name Sohan mentioned in, is it 4h.com? Okay, I think it was directed towards me, but Sohan, feel free to answer that.
Yeah, if you're referring to the most recent one, it is called forage.com. I can actually give the link in the chat as well. It's called forage.com. And yeah, I believe that not probably .com or something. Yeah, I got it. It's called theforage.com, and you can just try and check it out. So theforage.com, and I hope that helps. Just put in the chat.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sohan. Okay, so we are at time, Sohan. Thank you so much. That was exactly the kind of straight talk this community needs. We want to thank you on behalf of all the community members and the people who joined today's session for doing this so candidly. There were questions open-ended and you answered them all very beautifully. So thank you so much once again for making time for all of us. We look forward to be doing more sessions with you, Sohan. Thank you once again for coming and giving us your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'll just close this off by saying that I don't thank you for your time, firstly, whether it's Sakshi or anyone else on the call over here. I know it is probably late where you are right now, and this is where you are on a Sunday. So I don't take your time. Like I take it very, very seriously. So thank you so much for that, firstly. And I really hope this helps. If there are any follow-up questions, please don't shy away from asking them. Reach out to me on LinkedIn or directly tailor them to a Sakshi. She'll make sure that they are answered, and Open Hired will take care of them. So thank you so much for joining. I really take this very seriously, and it is a pleasure answering all of your questions and meeting you all. So thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Sohan, once again. Thank you all for joining. Have a great weekend, and please feel free to fill the feedback form that is there in the chat box. Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye. Have a great
Yeah.
weekend, all. Bye bye.
Have a great weekend. Bye.